Hi everyone, we're in my garden and I figured I would start up here with this cantaloupe melon just because it doesn't look too hot. I'm not sure what happened here. I don't think it looked this way a couple days ago. I just noticed that it had kind of a weird color to it, and when I tipped it over I could see some dark discoloration on the top, although it's not soft. So I'm curious to see what's up with it. I mean, it's true that its vine has more or less withered away and dried off at this point, so I think it's safe to say that I can remove it from the plant. But this is usually an indication that the fruit is ripe, that the stem will just pop off like that. So I think that's a good sign that the fruit itself is or was ripe. I'm just wondering if I might have left it up here for too long. So I'm going to fish it down off of this little setup that I've got here so I could take a closer look at what's up with this melon. I'm not quite sure what to make of it. Maybe it's good. Maybe that miscoloration on top is not a big deal. But I don't know. I guess I'll have to hack it open and see how the insides look. Hopefully it's edible. Hopefully it's good. Certainly not big as the first one that grew up on that vine, but it's certainly looks like it's either ripe or has gone overripe at this point. So you can see I've got two more growing on this other rogue vine over here. Similar size, starting to develop that distinct outer appearance of a cantaloupe. So I'll be curious to see how those progress. The vine that these two melons are growing on is still in pretty decent shape. All of its leaves are nice and green, and the top of the vine continues to want to climb up over this framework. But I don't see any other fruit growing on this plant, so I think that's it for the season as far as melons are concerned. So as you might recall, melons in my garden are not really an intentionally planted plant or fruit. They're just rogue plants that made their way into my garden through my compost. It's kind of interesting. It was sort of a little experiment. It's kind of fun actually, so I didn't mind. That brings us to tomatoes though. So you can see a lot of the tomatoes are coming along pretty nicely. These so-called tangerine tomatoes take on this nice color of like a tangerine or an orange at some point when they get ripe. This is also the same type of tomato, still pretty early, still kind of yellowish in color. These oval tomatoes are pretty plentiful. It was about 2 days ago, I guess, came out here and I took off all the ripe fruit. The ones that look like they might have still had a little bit of green left on them, I left them to go a little bit longer. It looks like a couple more have gone ripe since then. A bunch of other plants have green tomatoes growing on them here and there in a number of places. Some of them are even quite large at this point. I would think that this one's going to have to start changing color pretty soon. Yeah, but if you look at the tops of my plants, you might notice that they're not quite as bushy as they were in the last video. I came out here and I did attempt to prune some of my tomato plants, and I took down a number of the suckers, the side shoots that were growing. I mean, here's an example of one that I left, mainly because it was starting to produce some fruit up here, but I did top it off. Took off the top of the plant. You can see here too, I removed the top of the plant, because anything at the top at this point, if it produces flowers, it's never going to get to the point where the tomatoes will get big and get ripe. So it seemed sensible to include a little bit of topping off of my tomato plants during my last pruning, so that the plants might have a chance at focusing their efforts and energy into ripening the fruits that are already present on the plants. So in various places we could see numerous green tomatoes growing. So we'll see how they progress over time. These big ones I would think should be ripening pretty soon. I guess that brings us back to the end of the row where we have a couple more of these tangerine tomatoes. So tomatoes seem like they're still doing all right, but I guess by topping off the plants and chopping off all the excess growth, little side shoots and suckers, my hope was that the plants will be able to focus their attention a little bit more on ripening of their fruits. And that brings us to peppers, I guess. You can see down here I got some peppers that are already pretty red, ready for picking. Usually when a pepper gets to that stage, it's definitely ready for picking. I've got a couple of them over here. It's nice to see a bunch of peppers on most of the plants. And even in some cases, the pepper is actually pretty nice size, but these two, they're definitely starting to slow. You can see the slowness happening at the tips of the plants. I'm just not seeing quite as much growth anymore. This plant, I just tried to sort of bundle it together so that I could support it off this string because it was so all over the place. Just love the color of the peppers, even though the peppers are not that exciting to eat. These peppers are actually pretty good, but they're just not growing very large. The first pepper that came off this plant was huge, as a matter of fact. So it's a little surprising to see how puny these peppers are turning out to be. But I love the jalapeno. The jalapeno is continuing to grow pretty nicely. And here too, I've tried to top off the plant in certain places and leave only a couple of the tips to continue growing, even if they start flowering like this one here, it's never going to turn into a pepper at this point. So it almost seems futile to leave it to grow. Might be best just to top off the entire plant and just allow the remainder of the fruit that's already turned into pepper pods to just grow out and kind of wind down the remainder of the season. And that leads to the last of the types of plants that are out here, which are cucumbers, which are also growing on a fairly withering set of vines. When I took down a whole bunch of stuff off the tomato plants the other day, I also came through here and tried to remove a lot of this withering, dry material off the cucumber plants. See, a little bit of it is still here. I didn't get all of it, it seems. But I'm not really expecting much from these anymore. There's a couple little cucumbers here and there, but they really don't seem like they're gonna get anywhere. So I'm just kind of watching them, watering them, but not expecting that they're gonna go anywhere. So that's kind of where things stand right now. I think it's week 17 now of my garden here in central Jersey. It's now only a couple days from the end of September. It's almost October here. So the days are getting short. The amount of sunlight for these plants is really dropping significantly from what we had in the summertime. So I'm not sure how much longer we can expect continued growth out here, but I'll continue providing updates as long as there's something to see out here. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please remember to give me a thumbs up. That's always really appreciated. And also consider becoming a subscriber to the channel. That's always really appreciated as well. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye now.